Hello, everyone. Good morning, good evening, wherever the hell you are listening to this podcast. And welcome to the debut of Lights, Cameras, and Scream. Your host with this debut, Leon LeGray. And as I myself that have done my own podcast, also known as the person who have done the Leon LeGray podcast, a tech podcast I've done every week. Now, this one is fresh, brand new podcast that I am doing because during this experimentation of this brand new podcast, what is Lights, Cameras, and Scream? So I will tell you what this is. So in simple, short format, what I'm going to go through into this introduction of the very first podcast. So this is a brand new podcast where I reveal about horror and thrillers, by the way, films and TV series, brand new films related to the horror genre, previews and trailers, and new films in the making. So this is what Lights, Camera, and Scream is all about. And so it's something I've wanted to try something different for the very first time. Doing something that is really different, very neat. I would say just to expand upon the filming realm, which I definitely enjoy about horror movies. I also I would say that film in general. I love film. I love to talk about film, but my favorite genres has to be horror film. Now it's kind of strange for those that know me and wondering horror film. You don't look anyone that likes horror films. Well, I do, and many of you that may not know who I am, I been watching horror films since I was a little weedy boy, and I've started horror films at a very young age, late 90s, and I've watched films such as Halloween, Scream, The Nightmare of Elm Street, Friday the 13th, so on and so forth. So that's pretty much my history with horror in general. So that's one thing I wanted to do with this podcast. And so the question of I think everyone's comes to mind is why I started this podcast. And pretty much I've already explained this. So I've always wanted to do a horror podcast that reviews about films and TV shows. This was a podcast project as I pulled it, and I've held it on the side for a couple weeks, pretty much. But I think the idea had been around for about a year and a half or so. That's pretty much how long this idea has been around in dormant. And so yeah, and this has been a passion project that I've cared about doing for some time. Back as like I've said, a year and a half, and I've worked on my own solo tech podcast under my own pseudonym, which is Leon LeGray Podcast. While I do enjoy talking about technology and tech news in general, I run weekly or bi-weekly, depends on the schedule of the tech podcast. And this is a very new adventure for me, and very much I'm going through uncharted territories and something I have not done before. And so here we are. I'm doing something fresh out of the box, and that's why I'm doing a horror podcast. And yes, I'll be watching a lot more horror genres as time goes on, because as even though I haven't gone to the movie theaters in many years prior before this, and the last time, I would say the very last time I went to see anything suspenseful, thrilling, horrific I would say Nosferatu. The pretty much the remake from Edward Robert Eggers, and that's how long it's been since. And yeah, so that was the one thing I wanted to do is do more do something like this, and this is like basically my pet project at that point. And yeah, this is going to be a solo podcast, mostly being run by me, and pretty much the same concept I've done with my other solo project that I've done talking about technology, which something I've done. And now, if I ever have like guest hosts, it'll be very, very rare on this podcast, which I'll end up talking about this with other people that have the same interests, just like I myself. So, yeah, so that's why I would start doing something like that, something that would be pretty sweet. And of course, if I continue doing stuff like this, and if this becomes pretty successful, then cool. I'll continue running the show every week. And it depends on who you are. If you're into this, make sure to share this with friends, because this is something I want this to become pretty big. I want people that are interested in horror films, love to listen to reviews, loved my concept, and love my ideas. And that's why I am doing what I'm doing right now. And my favorite question, and coming from Ghostface, and one thing he always asks to people when he calls on the phone, what's your favorite scary movie? And my favorite scary movie has to be number 1, Halloween. Number 2 is the Scream series. And then number 3, John Carpenter's The Thing. Yeah, the 1982 The Thing. And I enjoy it, and I end up rewatching it about every year when I can. Great film to catch up. It's very intense, very chilling. It's something I recommend to everybody too. If you haven't watched The Thing, it's a must, absolutely too. So that's my top 3 films, horror films I watch most commonly too. So the other question that I wrote down is, as far as movies, and my last movie I watched in the theaters, it would have to be Nosferatu, like I mentioned, directed by Robert Eggers, 2024 film. Great film, and something a film I would enjoy watching the third time on my own. I would say the best thing about this, for one, was walking into the theater, watching the film late at night, but then you go in and you do not know what you're getting into. And one of the coolest things to see, on even when this came out on Christmas Day, I was like, this is so nice. I can get to watch this and have a good time. The big screen is the best experience, as far as I can tell you. And yeah, it's one of the best experience, and I can't regret it one bit. Now, here we go with question number 3. What's the next movie I'll see on the big screen? So for this year, on 2025. Now, I'm not 100% sure. The next film that comes to mind, and one thing I can say that comes to mind, and the film that, believe it or not, when I was watching Nosferatu, the trailer preview comes to mind. What has to be 28 Years Later, which is the sequel for 28 Months Later, which is a zombie film, which pretty much we haven't seen a sequel like this in a long time, and this is the third sequel out of the 28 Days Later films. And now, if you guys aren't aware of it, the first one was 28 Days Later, which came out around 2002 or 2003. I'm not sure the year date, but it's been a very long time. Since then, we've had two films, 28 Days Later and then 28 Months Later. I mean, going forward with that, 28 years later looks impressive. And as someone that have watched the zombie films a long time ago, I love zombie films. And I can't say that there hasn't been a zombie film on the radar that I come to like, because I remember many years ago I've enjoyed watching Day of the Dead, the remake, by the way, and then George A. Romero's Land of the Dead is super sick film, and that came out in the 2005. So that film was like the landmark of zombie films. It was really good release back then too. But then ever since after George A. Romero's Zombies, then you had a TV show that was very popular. I'm sure you've heard of The Walking Dead. Very popular back into the day. Now they still release episodes. I'm not sure how strong the fan base is, but it's a cool show. I've watched like the first 4 to 5 seasons. I haven't seen all the seasons, but it's still going. From what I understand too. But yeah, and from what I can tell you guys is that it's one of those shows that, even though I enjoyed it at first, I can't say that I'm a big fan of The Walking Dead, because you'll know when that show ends right there, because it felt that a show like that continues on, and it doesn't feel like it has a proper ending to the show. Unfortunately, that's where I ended up giving up basically most of my interest, and that's why I enjoy zombie films over television shows, because it's like I love TV shows, but it doesn't even hit me the same way with zombie films. But yeah, that's why I'm more excited to see 28 Days Later. So I'm really stoked when it comes out during the summer. So I have to check when that's going to come out too, because I forgot. Even now, I forgot when that's coming actually. But yeah, so moving on to the next question is for next episodes. When will we see a brand new episode and releases for this podcast? So, good question. The podcast episode releases are going to be between Tuesdays and Thursdays. So, don't miss out. I'll have the shows recorded beforehand on Monday evenings and have it released on Tuesdays. So, with that said, so like I've said, between Tuesdays and Thursdays, you'll see releases out there too. So, which in my case, I'll be talking about, like I mentioned before, the past, the present, and future previews on the new titles coming out too. What's happening even in the genre of horror and thrillers, because again, both of them are the best of both worlds, and it just brings something that's super amazing with horror films, which I just think that those type of films are something that does grab you and just makes you want more of that too. So that's why I'm really stoked too. So all you horror and thriller fans out there, if you love to hear a podcast like this, make sure to check in more on this too, because I will have episode 2 coming up with fresh new ideas on my way, and make sure to have everything written down beforehand. So anyways, guys, thanks for taking a good 15-minute listen of this podcast. My true live self and with less groggy and less noise like the zombies. But yes, there will be more to come, and I cannot wait. So, guys, thanks for checking out this debut. I can't freaking wait. Now, get ready for the next episode of Lights, Cameras, and Scream. Thanks again.